Hello and welcome to the award-winning Ed Brown Show. I am your host, Kamaria Richmond, and we have a wonderful show for you today. We are talking to Larry LaRose, and Larry is an award-winning actor, performance coach, and speaker. And so he's going to teach us how he uses acting techniques for business. So Larry, welcome back to the Ed Brown Show.
Fantastic to be here. Very happy to be here.
Thank you. So tell us how we do it.
How you do it? Well, I'm going to say I have a rather unique business, which I thought about putting together, I don't know, a few years ago when I was approached by a colleague. I've always been interested in theater and acting. As a matter of fact, I started when I was 6 years old. So that started very early in my life. I had parents that were great movie people. They loved the classic movies. They kind of got me into watching the classic movies. And from that, I started to watch the different actors and how they affected their roles and how they performed. And I started to imitate them at a really early age. As a matter of fact, I can remember when I was in 6th grade, I actually did Bill Cosby imitations.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, and I was actually really good at it. And my 6th grade teacher noticed that I could do these things really well. So he sent me to all the other 6th grade classes to basically perform in front of them. And I guess from all of that, I really got the performance and the acting bug. So I started to study it basically from grade school. Because in grade school, I went to a parochial school. And when I was in 1st grade, my teacher just threw me out on the stage in a biblical story, and I was playing Joseph in the biblical story, and all I saw was the audience and the other kids and the teachers, and instead of being scared, all of a sudden I was enamored of the whole experience. So that kind of got me started in the whole theater thing. So during most of my middle school and high school life, I took part in all the theater classes. I took part in the drama club. I was in the plays. My middle school ended at 9th grade, so I was in the 9th grade production for that year, and then followed that into high school. And in high school, I was in our first big high school musical, which just happened to be Bye Bye Birdie. I had the opportunity to play Conrad Birdie, so I've kind of played Elvis at some point in my life. And from there, I went to college. And I got involved in college productions. I had a director who was influenced by a lot of the classics. And he was especially influenced by the plays that he had done. So we did some really interesting shows. We did Tobacco Road, we did 1,000 Clowns, we did a lot of the real classical Broadway and movie award-winning type productions. And I got a chance to act in some of my favorite roles in that. And I've had some success performing on the stage. My reviews were generally good, and people started asking me about acting and theater, and I started getting into different aspects of that, the technical side as well as the acting side. And then I met this woman who was an actress who moved to our area to go to grad school, and a bunch of my friends in the theater department became friends with her when she arrived, and we met each other casually. I got to see her in a couple different productions. I actually had no interest in her whatsoever, and funny how she's turned out to be my wife now. So anyway, so I met my wife through the theater. We actually met backstage, and then our first date, I was on stage doing a production of Mice and Men. And her boyfriend that she had just split up with was in the production with me. And she wanted to avoid him, so that her avoidance of him became our first date. So my wife and I met backstage. So it was part of our love of theater that started that relationship. So theater's played a really important part in my life, especially most of my young life. Now, at the end of that time, though, I was still in college, but I kind of ran out of money. So I had to actually leave school so that I could get a job. Right. And I got basically a job as a cook and I had a manager in the restaurant business who saw potential in me to be a leader in that business, and I started in business.
Wow, interesting. And
Yeah,
we were talking before, like marry someone that loves what you love.
that's true. And that's the key to a long and lasting marriage.
Right.
Marry someone who has your same interests. Don't meet them in a bar. Meet them somewhere. And in my case, it was the theater. Some people meet at the gym. Some people meet someplace where you're doing what you love. Maybe a cooking class. Maybe mountain climbing. Who knows?
Right.
If you have similar interests, you're probably in for a long-term relationship.
I think you're right.
And mine has been extremely long.
Wow, that's wonderful. Now, Larry, so we're using acting techniques for business.
Right.
So when a corporation comes to you, what do they say to you? Like, Larry, help me increase my business by by coaching, or what is it that they're looking for?
What I usually find is they're not really, because what I do is very unique to them, that they kind of don't get what I do until we do a couple of exercises. And once I show them the confidence that it builds, or how to pick their words, or do vocals, or any one of the other techniques that I can teach them, then they generally get how that makes an improvement in how they present their ideas. And the better you present your idea, the better sales you can make. Because a lot of people don't make sales or have a little less success in the sales business because they can't express their ideas clearly. And one of the things that acting techniques will do for you is give you clarity as far as expressing your ideas, communicating them to another person. A good example of this, lately, Alan Alda's been on TV a lot. He just won the Screen Actors Guild Award for Lifetime Achievement. And part of what he is doing with his life right now, outside of acting, is he is using his acting and theater skills to teach advanced communications.
Interesting.
Which is very similar to the same thing that I do. So I'm kind of like, Alan Alda and I are kind of like involved in the same business right now. We are teaching business professionals advanced communication skills, advanced relationship building skills, advanced influencing skills. All the acting skills that I teach people will actually expand in those three areas, especially because I teach vocal skills, which will let you express your ideas. Vowels and consonants are very important when you're speaking, so you can be clearly understood and put your point across. I teach relationship building, how you say something, your tone, how you put words together, how you put sentences together. All of this can be used for building a relationship with someone, and the same thing with influencing skills. We all need to influence.
Right,
We all want to be that person who influences the other person.
Right.
That's not, I don't mean to say that in a negative aspect, but in a positive aspect. You have to be able to clearly express your idea, influence the person with your idea to move them to either your point of view, or in the case of business, to a sale. Because we all have something to sell.
Absolutely.
Every business has a product or a service. All right, so we need to be able to express our products and services in a very clear and concise manner. Get to the point, have our benefits, be able to explain everything to someone very clearly, so that they understand what we do and why they should do business with us.
Absolutely. And I can see how that would actually work, but kind of walk us through those steps. So when you do one-on-one role play, so I'm like, Larry, I need some help with my consonants, or I need some help, I have the fear of speaking in public, or, how do you teach people to project? Like when I think of acting and techniques, you always hear, you have to project yourself.
That's an interesting thought, because with the advent of microphones, and the technology, the advanced technology, that now the microphones are very small. So you see more and more performers are using microphones rather than actually using the art of projection. Now, I'm old school. I'm an old school actor, so I teach projection. When I give a performance, I'm talking speaking, I'm talking business. To me, everything's a performance.
Right.
Okay? I mean, you give a great performance. If you give a great performance in business, you have great sales. You know, so everything to me is a performance, whether it's in your personal life, your professional life. You know, to me, I'm performing all the time. You know, now there's a difference in my performance at business and my performance at home. You know, my performance in business, I am the lead actor. When I go home, I am not. The lead actor, she's already there.
Right.
So, so I am not the lead actor at home. But in business, I am the lead actor. So the different steps as far as projection, it's kind of interesting because you really have to get into breathing. It's almost like a yoga technique in a lot of ways. You really want to control the breath first. And that starts down here in the diaphragm, which is just below your rib cage. It's that big muscle in there. You have to learn to use that to push the air up into your head. All right, and then you learn where to put your vowels in your head because that's really where they belong. And once you learn how to do that, it vibrates your mask, and that's what makes things project. So it's kind of complicated. It's not really something I can teach you in a few minutes. You really have to be in a class to do that.
Yeah, if you remember, I tried.
Yeah,
I tried it. And I wasn't very successful.
It's something that really takes practice because if you practice it really well, it will become part of your everyday expression, which is really something that, again, people in business can do because when you walk into a room or when you open your mouth, people pay attention.
Yes.
Because you have that projection, you have that voice, you have that tone. And another thing that all business people, especially people that want to influence, and I would say that's CEOs, business professionals, doctors, lawyers, they all want to own the room. They want to be the expert at the center of the room. And all of these techniques will make you the expert at the center of the room. I mean, people will see you when you walk in. You know who those people are. Right. They walk in, they have power, they have presence. So another part of what I do is teaching presence. How do you develop presence to take over a room? Because every business professional who wants to be really good at what they do wants to own the room when they walk into it. So, and this is how I developed all these things. I developed them because when I was in business, all right? When I was in the business world, when I came out of school, I started in restaurants. My first job in management was a third shift restaurant manager. Now, the guy I worked for said, you're really talented, you're really talented in this area. You need to be promoted, but I have an assistant that's got to be promoted first. Well, I didn't like that. I don't like being held back.
Right.
So I left him and went to work in another restaurant where I got promoted quickly.
Okay.
Into like, a branch manager. So I was building a business acumen, so to speak. As I got more experience in the business world, I was honing my business skills. And with that comes all those soft skills as far as handling people and managing people and building them up, promoting them. And from there I went into the rent-to-own industry where I actually helped to build a billion-dollar company. Now that may not be, we didn't have the tech companies that we have today, but this company that I went to work for went from 41 million in revenues to $1 billion in 5 years.
Wow.
So we were very busy, and this was in the 90s. So we were very busy. Fortune magazine recognized us as the 5th fastest growing company in America. And that was in 1997. So we went from a 41 million evaluation in 1995 to $1 billion evaluation in 2001. So it was a very rapid kind of thing. Now from there I went to work in other big corporations. I have worked for Transamerica Corporation, where I developed management courses for them. I developed their inventory management system for them, which I didn't go there planning to do that, but I realized once Transamerica Corporation, big corporation, they finance things like movies, TV shows, and countless other types of businesses. So I thought I was going to learn real management from them. Then I realized that they needed management. So I developed a lot of management courses from them. And then from there, I went to work for General Motors. And there I was a facilitator. Now, facilitation is another skill for relationship building.
Okay.
It's basically corporations come to you and say, when you're facilitating for a corporation, they have a goal they want you to meet, or they have a program they want you to institute, or they have something, they have a goal. All right, your job is to manage the team of the business they send you into to achieve that goal, to get to that goal. And basically how you do it is by managing the talents of the group, in this case facilitating, because a facilitator is not really like a manager. A facilitator moves the group to get to the right solution.
Right.
That's what a facilitator does. So acting skills come in because you're using those influencing skills. You're influencing the group to move. You're influencing the group to get to the proper solution, to build the skills that they need. So that's part of the whole, how when I use my acting skills, I use acting skills to influence the team to get to the solution, which I can teach another corporation to do. And that's what I did for General Motors.
And that adds to sales.
And that adds to sales. The whole job in the auto industry is to sell more cars.
Right.
I mean, we want to sell more cars, but not only do we want to sell more cars, but we want service to be good, because it was a lot of what we did was based on service scores. And again, acting comes in because you're building relationships. If you're in the repair business, in the car business, you're building a relationship with the person who purchased the car. You want it to be a long-term relationship because you want them to come back and buy another car. Because you want, I remember back in the day, my dad bought, I'm going to say, half a dozen cars from the same salesman at the same car dealership, because he had a relationship with that person. So he kept going back. So I think that hasn't changed. I mean, technology has changed the way we do a lot of things. I mean, we now buy cars on the internet, basically.
Yeah.
But you still, when the people come to the showroom, you still have to be able to build something there in order for them to trust you, fill out the paperwork, do all the other things. Same thing with getting your car serviced. You always take your car to the guy you know, like, and trust.
Absolutely.
Right? You always take your car there to get fixed. Well, acting skills help you build know, like, and trust. Because as you build those relationships, and communication skills are very important. If you can communicate clearly, put your sales pitch, and I hate the word pitch, I'd rather say sales presentation. You put your sales presentation together in the interest of the customer and from their point of view. Another acting skill. Christian Bale, who won the Golden Globe this year for Vice.
He's great.
Yeah, he's a really good actor. But one of the things he was quoted in, I read Actors on Acting a lot, and one of his quotes is, what he loves about acting is that he really loves the empathy of the thing.
Interesting.
Yeah, so that's his quote. And when I read that, I realized that what he is actually saying is, as for his roles, and my roles too, I mean, any role that an actor does, you have to have empathy for your character. So you have to live in their shoes. Even if the character you're playing is an evil person, in your opinion, you have to have empathy for that character. Now, if you are a business person, you want to get into the head of your customer. You've heard that, right? Get into the head.
Right, yeah.
Acting skills build empathy skills. Empathy skills help you get into the head of the customer. They help you to look at things from the customer's point of view. Once you learn your customer's point of view, you can probably get them to buy just about anything.
Right.
Because now when you have empathy for your customer, you see what is valuable to them and what contains value for them. And then you can move your product to satisfying that need. So acting builds empathy skills, all right? And empathy skills are good influencing skills, or good ways to establish a relationship with your customer, which allows you to have a buying or to establish a buying relationship with your customer.
So that takes customer service to a whole new level.
Whole new level. And I'd like to say a very competitive level.
Okay.
Because it'll move you, developing those skills will move you away from the competition. They'll move you another step above your competition. Because these are advanced skills that people don't normally learn in quote, sales courses.
Right.
I don't teach a sales course. I teach a relationship building course.
Okay.
And to me, that's what's important these days with technology and everything else. You build the relationship first
Absolutely.
and make the sale second,
Absolutely.
which
Absolutely.
acting will help you do.
Yeah, it's so fascinating. And so, Larry, you have workshops,
I do.
and tell us about those.
Well, this is really interesting. My workshop came about when I had a colleague and a friend who had seen me perform and decided I was a really good actor. And he said, can you teach me how to do that? And I thought, well, yeah, I can. So I started to work with him one-on-one. And the more I worked with him one-on-one, the more I realized that I actually have what I would say is a method as far as developing people. Not necessarily to be actors, but just to be better, confident, a better version of themselves, I always say. A stronger version. And as I worked more and more with him, he got better and better at what he was doing. And then another person suggested to me that maybe I could make a workshop out of this. So I started to put together my workshop with vocals and motion and improv exercises, which I find are very interesting because improv forces you to become creative. It forces you to think on your feet. It forces you to come up with situations and solutions in certain situations. So improv is a very important thing as far as learning to act and react in certain situations. So I teach improv, I teach vocals, I teach movement, and then I teach putting it all together into a character, or if you will, into a performance. And your performance can be your presentation.
Yes.
Your sales presentation or your presentation.
Right.
So your performance can be that. But all these skills come in the workshop to come up with a product, and you being the product. And maybe a stronger version of yourself. A more polished presentation, if you will, so that you can go out and influence your audience, because everybody has an audience.
Right.
If you're in business, you have an audience.
Right.
It might be one customer, but it's still an audience. It's still somebody you have to perform for. And my workshop will teach you, if you do all the steps in the workshop, if you spend the day with me, and it's a day-long workshop, if you spend the day with me, you will develop skills that you're going to be able to use the minute you walk out the door.
Okay.
You're gonna have tools that you haven't had before. You're gonna be able to start a presentation, edit the presentation, perform the presentation. I'm gonna teach you all of that. Now, is it gonna be detailed? Probably not, because we only have 5 to 6 hours is generally the amount of time. But literally, I put this workshop together, and I started to do it publicly. I started to get people that said they wanted to come and do it, so I started to do it in a public forum. And then I actually had a friend of mine say, can you bring this to NASA? So my first kind of test for my workshop was at NASA, where I had 20 engineers and scientists in my class. And they reacted so positively to what I had taught them. And I did the very same kind of workshop that I did for the public. And they reacted so positively to it that they brought me back again. So they actually hired me 3 times to do the same workshop.
Wow.
And they paid me 3 times to do the same workshop. Now, the comments that I got from the engineers and the scientists were that, I remember this one woman, she was a female engineer, and the woman who hired me said, why did you have me bring Larry back? And her quote was, because Larry did not just teach us skills for our jobs, he taught us skills for our life. Now, it doesn't get better than that.
No.
And her other comment was, he has actually changed the way that I communicate with my kids.
Now, that's very interesting.
Now,
that's very interesting.
Yeah, because I will admit that was not a goal for that particular workshop, but because she now recognizes the power of her words and the power of putting them together correctly and the power of thinking before you open your mouth and putting things together before you open your mouth, and because there's a whole bunch of techniques that go into giving a really effective performance, and you should be thinking of about, I'm going to say 10 different things before you ever open your mouth. Right. And that's also, by the way, the cure for stage fright. Okay, the cure for stage fright is if you're thinking about all the things you should be thinking about, you don't have time to be afraid.
Wow.
Because if you're thinking about that first word, if you're thinking about that first sentence, if you're thinking about your physical being, because there's also a way to perform physically.
Yes.
Because this is, you know, acting is a sport.
Yes.
I mean, it's literally a sport. And so if you're thinking about the body, the strength that comes from the diaphragm, the strength that comes from using your mask to project, all that, all those things, where you're going to put your consonants, where you're going to put your vowels. If you're thinking about all those things, you don't have time to be scared. You have time, you want to think about getting it right.
Right. And I can see how this works with business so very well. This helps you get the job or start your company, and to do it almost effortless, just by learning a few of these techniques. Now, Larry, we only have a few more minutes.
Okay.
Give us like 1 or 2 ways that you hold folks accountable. We have about a minute.
Hold folks accountable. I'm going to say that I don't hold them accountable. They're accountable to themselves.
Yes.
Because if they don't get results from what they taught, they're not trying, from what they've been taught, they're not trying hard enough. I'll give you an example. I just had a woman that was in one of my classes call me up and say, I saw you a couple years ago, and she said, and I practiced what you taught me, and I actually won a contest at Toastmasters.
Wow.
So she won her Toastmasters contest, and now she is one of my students because she wants to win a national contest.
Wow, that is phenomenal. Now, people can reach you how? Because we want you to come to your classes.
2 different ways.
Okay.
3, obviously. You can go to my website. It's very easy, LarryLaRose.com. You can send me an email, Larry@LarryLaRose.com, or you can just call my office, which is 301-809-6437. If you call my office, you're going to get a message that you're really going to get a kick out of.
Okay. Well, I want to thank you so much for coming back to the award-winning Ed Brown show. I mean, it's really, really interesting. So we definitely want people go to LarryLaRose.com, and thanks again.
By the way, you can sign up for a workshop too.
On the workshops, okay.
We have several workshops coming up, so that you can sign up for them right there. Or call me up and say you want to attend one. We'll get you in.
Great. Well, thanks everyone for tuning in and listening today, and we'll chat with you next time.
Did you know dragging chains can spark a wildfire?
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Did you know dragging chains can spark a wildfire?
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Open up your books to page 360.
Did you just look at your phone while you was in class? You played yourself.
Talking about inspirational quotes.
You gotta believe in yourself. Don't ever play yourself. The key is to make it, so make it.
Louise, can you give me an example of an inspirational quote?
Don't play yourself. The key is to make it.
And who said that?
I did. Now that's a major key alert.
Learn the real major keys to getting to college at GetSchool.com.